So now we should talk about what things to consider before running the analysis. I'm going to be brief about this part. So the first thing that you need to keep in mind and always double check within your project is if you have the volume computations turned on for your rooms. We need the volumes to be computed for the rooms in order to correctly identify all the surrounding objects around the room. So please always keep that in mind to have the areas and volumes computed. So that's number one. Number two, when it comes to balcony rooms, so I'm gonna open up this section view here. So the balcony rooms need to be named correctly, or better said, according to the settings, to the names specified in the settings. So whichever name you have specified here, please use any of these to name your balconies, because by that we are filtering the balconies out from the main calculation, and we will only include them when we are adding them as overhangs to the rooms below. So always keep in mind to have the correct namings on the balconies. And when it comes to some other things regarding the balconies, you should always keep them below the height of the adjacent rooms or the normal rooms. In that way, the balcony rooms will not take precedent instead of the normal rooms. So yeah, simple rule: always keep the balconies named correctly and keep the height below the height of the adjacent rooms. So that's number two. Number three that you have to keep in mind is the material properties, or more precisely the transparency property on windows for daylight factor. So for example, if I take one material property on the windows, and let's say it's this one, glass, and you would want to have the transparency on this window to be 60. You will not modify this option to be 60 because we are not using this property to read the transparency property. We are using the render appearance property. So if you go to the appearance tab here, so the reflectance property here is basically the opposite of the transparency. So if you want a transparency of your glass to be 60, you need to write down 40 here. And if you go to the graphics tab here, because I turned on use render appearance, the transparency is saying 60. So always keep in mind that if you want to set the transparency, you need to, in that case, you need to define the reflectance in the appearance tab, because as I said, that's basically kind of the opposite of transparency. And this is the property that Naviate Daylight uses to figure out what the transparency or the reflectance of the window is. So that's number three. When it comes to workshop projects, so if many people are working on one project and you have work sets, and some of those work sets, let's say a work set of windows, is locked by another user, you as the one member of the project that's assigned to do the Naviate Daylight calculations, is not possible to save the results to the windows in this case, because that workset was locked. So that's not something that we are handling right now. So in order to save the results to the model or to a work shared model, all the work sets need to be relinquished, and then you will have the possibility to say the results correctly. That's number 4. Number 5 is when you have a project with design options. So if you have design options and model elements found in those design options, that's not something that we're supporting right now, because when we are sending the model to Radiance, we are sending all the model elements found in this project. It doesn't matter in which design options they are found. So in order to get the correct results, you need to have model elements only in the main model. So in that case, you will get the correct output. A similar thing goes when it comes to design phases. So if you want the correct output of Naviate Daylight, all the elements that are used for the calculation should be found in one phase. So for example, if you have your window of this room in one phase and the room and the walls in another phase, it will not work, because we will not identify that wall or that window that's in another phase as part of this calculation, so to say. So please keep that in mind, that's still something that we are trying to integrate within Naviate Daylight. And yeah, your opinion would be quite useful here to know what the value of these improvements is. I'm specifically talking about the design options and the phases. So yes, I think those were the things that I wanted to show for the things that you should consider in Daylight. So yes, that would be it from me today. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope this demo, this presentation was interesting and useful to you. And I hope you will have the time and the opportunity to try out Naviate Daylight and see what potential it has. Thank you very much, and I'm open for any questions. So we now have a Q&A session. So please feel free to ask anything. Thank you again.